Her shadow stretched long across the dirt as the evening sun burned low, turning the street into a river of red dust. Mary Ellen's boots scuffed forward in uneven steps, her breath hitching with each one. A smear of blood clung to her cheek, dark against the fading light. The sheriff's door banged shut behind her. The porch boards groaned under her weight before she stepped off them entirely. Across the street, a man sweeping the saloon porch paused, eyes sliding over her, then down to his boots. Two women by the mercantile window turned away, pretending to fuss over a basket. No one spoke. The wind carried the dry squeal of the saloon's hanging sign, the metal hinge scraping in a slow, mocking rhythm. She clutched the side of her torn dress, fingers pressing into bruised ribs. A cough shook her thin frame. Somewhere behind her, far beyond the last line of buildings, a door slammed hard. She didn't turn to look. From the shadow of the livery stable, a shape detached itself and stepped into the bleeding light. Dust swirled around his boots as if to announce him. Broad shoulders, a weather-worn coat, and eyes that found her without hurry. Daniel Cutter didn't say her name, didn't even seem to need it. "You're coming with me," he said. His voice was calm, low, with the weight of something that allowed no argument. Not a threat, not a plea, a statement that hung in the air heavier than the heat. Mary Ellen stopped, chest heaving. Her gaze drifted past him toward the horizon where the land bled into shadow. In that distance lay the shack she'd been dragged from at dawn, and the man who had put his hands on her for the third and final time. Bill Hargreave would be there still, waiting for her to crawl back. The rancher didn't move, just watched her, the wind pulling at the brim of his hat. Her jaw trembled. She wanted to say no, to tell him she couldn't leave, but her body had already shifted toward him. He turned, slow as if leading a skittish mare, and started walking. The dust rose behind them, swallowing the narrow main road. Boot steps faded under the whisper of the wind. A wagon rattled somewhere far off, its sound hollow against the silence. The sky deepened into bruised purple, the first cold of night creeping in around the edges of the heat. Mary Ellen glanced once over her shoulder. The outline of her husband's shack was still there, black against the setting sun. She could almost see him in the doorway, shoulders filling the frame, bottle in hand. She faced forward. Cutter never looked back. The prairie wind cut sharp against her cheeks, snapping loose strands of hair into her eyes. Hooves drummed in a steady rhythm beneath them, the sound swallowed and echoed by the emptiness. The sun had dipped lower, turning the horizon into a thin band of fire. Leather creaked with every shift of the saddle. Cutter rode ahead, shoulders squared, his gaze fixed far past where the land met the sky. He didn't speak. The reins hung loose in his hands, but his eyes moved like a man counting each mile between here and trouble. Mary Ellen's fingers clung to the worn pommel. The air was dry enough to burn her throat. Dust rose from the horse's steps, curling into ghostly shapes before the wind tore them apart. They passed the skeleton of a windmill, its blades groaning with each turn. The sound carried for miles, lonely as a church bell in a ghost town. Beyond it lay the charred ribs of a homestead, walls collapsed, doors sagging on one hinge. Black scorch marks clawed up the siding. She glanced at him. He didn't slow. "You didn't have to," she started, but the words rasped in her throat. "Hold your water," he said without looking back. "Talk later." The air felt heavier the farther they rode. Even the coyotes kept their distance. At the dry bed of a creek, Cutter drew his horse to a halt. Mary's mount fidgeted under her, hooves scraping rock. From the bend in the gulch ahead, two riders emerged, broad hats low, dust-stained coats hanging heavy over revolvers. One lifted his chin. "Seen a woman come this way? Husband's looking for her." Cutter's expression didn't shift. "Ain't seen no one worth following." The man's mouth twitched, eyes flicking to the rifle tied behind Cutter's saddle. His partner spat into the dirt. "Funny," the first said, voice thin as wire. "We heard she was headed for Cutter's place." Cutter's gloved hand rested near the rifles, but "You hear a lot of things out here. Best to let most of 'em blow away." The riders stared a moment longer, then turned their horses. The sound of hooves faded until there was nothing but the wind again. Mary's pulse still hammered in her ears. "They'll tell him," she said. Cutter nudged his horse forward. "Then he'll come." The trail wound higher into a stretch of scrub and rock. The last of the daylight slid away, leaving the land in cold silver. Mary pulled her shawl tighter. Cutter never once looked back. The canyon walls closed in, shadow swallowing the last threads of daylight. Cutter's horse slowed, hooves crunching on loose gravel as the land opened suddenly into a hidden hollow. The ranch appeared like something half-forgotten, corral fences leaning under their own weight, gate hanging crooked, porch boards sagging with age. A lantern's flame flickered faintly inside the house, painting thin gold lines through warped window glass. Cutter swung down first, boots landing in the dust without a sound. He tied the horses to the rail and gestured for her to follow. The boards of the porch complained under their combined weight. Inside, the air smelled faintly of wood smoke and oiled leather. A single chair sat by the fire, its cushion worn flat. Above it, a faded flag hung against the wall, edges frayed, colors dulled to near brown. In the far corner, a chest with iron hinges sat locked tight, the kind of man keeps close but never opens in front of company. Mary lingered near the doorway, fingers brushing the rough frame. Cutter set his hat on the table, the lamplight catching on the silver in his hair. She saw it then, the scar along his forearm, pale and jagged, running from wrist to elbow like a lightning strike frozen in flesh. He caught her looking. "Coffee." She nodded. The fire popped. Shadows swayed along the walls, and the flag above the chair seemed to ripple in the shifting light. "You live out here alone?" she asked. Cutter poured coffee into 2 tin cups. "Most days. What about the rest?" His gaze held hers a beat longer than necessary, then shifted to the window. "Best you don't ask." From somewhere far off, a coyote yipped, high, then low, before the sound bled into silence. He handed her the cup. The metal was hot enough to sting her palms. A horse snorted outside. Both their eyes lifted at the same time. Through the glass, a rider eased up to the porch, reins slack in one hand. The man's face was mostly shadow, but the glint of a revolver handle caught the light. He didn't dismount. "Bill's coming," the voice called, rough and sure. "Bring in the whole crew. Says you've got something of his." Cutter took a slow sip of coffee, never looking away from the window. "Tell him I'll be here," he said. The rider shifted in the saddle, spat into the dirt, and turned his horse without another word. Hoofbeats faded into the canyon's hollow echo. Mary's hands tightened on the cup until her knuckles ached. Cutter set his own down, the faint clink of tin on wood loud in the still room. "Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow's a long day." The first shot cracked before the sun cleared the canyon rim. Mary jerked awake to the sound of splintering wood. Cutter was already at the door, shotgun in hand, his silhouette framed in the pale light of dawn. The wind pushed the smell of rain through the open window, cool and sharp against the heat of gunpowder. 5 riders came hard over the ridge, dust boiling at their heels. Bill Hargreave led them, coat flapping wild, his hat gone, eyes fixed on the ranch like a man riding toward his own salvation. Cutter stepped onto the porch. "Stay behind me," he said, voice even, "until you can't." The first bullet screamed past, burying itself in the post beside him. Cutter's shotgun roared in reply, the blast dropping the lead rider clean from the saddle. He didn't pause. The barrels broke open, shells swapped, the weapon snapping shut in one smooth motion. Mary ducked behind the porch rail, peering through a gap in the boards. She saw him move, not like a lonely rancher, but like a man born to the gun. A second rider veered left, trying to flank. Cutter drew a revolver with his free hand, the silver catching the light as 2 shots rang out in quick succession. The man toppled sideways, boot caught in the stirrup, horse dragging him into the dust. Another charge straight in, firing wild. Cutter advanced instead of retreating, closing the distance with a calm that made the air feel heavier. His second revolver appeared in his other hand, both firing now, the rhythm precise, the recoil nothing to him. Mary had heard the name once, whispered in a saloon, Widowmaker. The 4th man fell. Only Bill remained, his face twisted with rage and drink. He bellowed, spurring his horse toward the porch. Cutter holstered one pistol, letting the other hang loose at his side. At 10 yards, he raised it. One shot. Bill slid from the saddle like a man whose legs have forgotten their purpose. The horse bolted, leaving him in the dust. Silence swelled in the canyon, broken only by the soft patter of rain on the porch roof. Cutter reloaded with slow, deliberate movements. Mary stood, heart pounding, staring at the man she'd thought was just a lonely rancher. He met her gaze once, then turned toward the open land. By the time the rain cleared, he was gone. Some folks say Daniel Cutter rode into Mexico that morning, never to be seen again. Others swear he still drifts from town to town, taking the side of the beaten and the lost. Years later, a woman stood on that same porch, 3 daughters grown at her side. Each held a rifle. Each watched the horizon.